You like being able to focus. You like making decisions. You like information that helps you to make decisions. You are beginning to understand that without choices, you could not focus your conclusion. And the entire evolution of this ever-expanding universe is about those choices which give you the opportunity to sift through and conclude. We want you to realize that you're making choices all day, every day, whether you ever speak them with words or not. Often the words that you speak out loud, you would say, these are my goals, or these are my desires, or even these are my decisions. But you are offering that sort of thing all day, every day, and you're not necessarily talking about it. We would call those maybe preferences, inclinations. Preferences is really the best word, because you just can't be focused, awake, alive, observing, experiencing, without conclusions happening within you, whether you are aware that you are concluding because you are backing it up with your dialogue or not. You just can't stand in any environment without it occurring to you at many levels of your being that there is an improved way of living this moment. You are wired that way, so to speak. You are leading edge creators, always reaching beyond the leading edge on which you are standing. And so the preferences that are born within you shoot out of you like rockets. In other words, you keep becoming whether you like it or not. You keep becoming. You cannot control this becoming. Life just causes you to continue to become. Now, what we mean by that is you are in these physical bodies and you are magnificent beings, but you are so much more than most people think they are. Or as Esther likes to say, most think'll peep they are. You are much more than most people think they are in these physical bodies. You are source energy extending forward into these leading edge physical bodies. So as you are here in these leading edge physical bodies, having exposure to constant new experience, the selfish you, and that is a wonderful thing because you cannot perceive other than through the eyes of self, so your vantage point continues to conclude improvements for you, improvements for you, improvements for you. Now, we're saying that to you if you are the one-celled organism. We're saying that to you if you are a cell in a human body. We're saying that to you if you are the human genius being. Your life experience causes you to set forth preferences, and those preferences extend from you like rockets. And this is the part that we really want you to hear, that we think that you are mostly not really aware of. As that preference is born, source goes with it. In other words, the non-physical you that is in the eternal state of becoming because of the physical you vantage point, that non-physical you goes with that preference and immediately becomes it. That's why we can say to you accurately, when you ask, it is given every single time. Because in the moment that it occurs to you, even in the slightest manner, that something would be better, Source agrees with you about that. Now, if there were ever a case to be made for you to begin working on your coming around to your sense of worthiness, we think that must surely be it. Because when you ask, you that are source become immediately that which you are asking for. Vibrationally, it is done. Do you get that? Sort of. There is thought, and then there is thought form, and then there is manifestation. And so it's all part of that process. If your environment has the resources to cause something to occur to you, the occurrence of it has caused the creation of it, and source has become that. The question is, what are you now doing about the gap between your launching this desire or your asking this question, to which source has already found the answer and lined up the circumstances and events to provide the physical manifestation for you? The question that this workshop asks and answers is, what are you doing about closing that vibrational gap? And we also want you to understand that you will never be happy unless you've closed the gap. In other words, you're never satisfied holding yourself back in a long-range way from who you have become. So this is the way it works. This is the big picture. You are non-physical energy. You are mind. You are consciousness. You are source. You are soul. You are good. You are worthy. And you want more life in a physical body because it's fun. You want the deliciousness of the leading edge experience. So you project yourself into a physical body, delighted with the contrast that you know will provide the basis for the new ideas that will occur to you. And you know that you're going to be mixing it up with a lot of other creators, so you know it's going to be a very fertile ground of creating. So splat, in you come. Welcome to planet Earth. And as you come forth into this physical body, you are immediately surrounded by an environment that causes you, from your selfish, the only perspective that you have, point of view, to offer preferences. And as the preference extends from you, or exudes from you, shoots out of you like a rocket, Source says, you ought to know, you're the one standing there. Who better to know what would be best for you than you standing there in the middle of it? So you ought to know, yes, it is done. Immediately when you ask, it is given every single time. But what we see with some of you, even though your contrast has caused you to ask for something different than where you are standing, often you keep talking about where you're standing. So you hold yourself without meaning to in vibrational accord with the contrast that caused the desire to be born, rather than going as Source does, right into vibrational alignment with the desire. Jerry and Esther have navigational systems in their vehicles, 3 different ones now. But they all work on the same premise, where because of the satellites in the sky and the contraptions in the vehicles, the system understands where they are. So then they program in their desired destination, and the system then takes those 2 points of relativity and calculates a route between them. The system only wants to know, where are you in relationship to where you want to be? Or even better said, where do you want to be in relationship to where you are? So then the system gives them a verbal and visual description of how to get there, and then they proceed along the way. If they diverge from the recommended route, Magellan in particular kicks up quite a squawk. Please proceed to the highlighted route. Please proceed to the highlighted route. If they really get carried away from their route, Magellan says, when possible, make a legal U-turn. Because it is clear from these 2 points of vibrational relativity that they are not on their way to where they said they wanted to be. And you have a squawking, you might say, emotional guidance system within you that lets you know when you are not on your route between where you are and where you want to be. As you move closer to where you have become, you feel an improved, an increasingly improved emotion. Because as you move away from what is not wanted, you release resistance. And as you move toward what is wanted, you affect allowing. In other words, allowing of who you have become, or disallowing of who you have become. Allowing your alignment with Source, resisting your alignment with Source. And the emotions that are within you are clear, accurate indicators of that. So your emotional guidance system is based upon 2 points of vibrational relativity. Where am I in relationship with who I have really become? And before you leave this gathering here today, we want it to be very clear to you, if you are wanting to understand it, that once life has caused you to become something more than you are, you've got to keep up to speed with it, or you feel unfulfilled. You feel frustrated. You feel like something's out of whack. In other words, you can't hold back. You must continue to let yourself be who you have become. Now, it's not essential. It's not important for your worthiness. In other words, you could hold yourself apart from the magnificent being you are constantly becoming and live a life of despair or grief or anger. And when you croak, You'll move right into alignment with who you are. In other words, you're not going to die and then be held in a place of negative emotion forevermore because you didn't make the jump. The discomfort happens in the moment of the misalignment. And as you allow yourself to move up this emotional scale, you feel better and better and better. The emotional scale on the end where you're allowing the alignment feels wonderful. It feels like clarity. It feels like passion. It feels like enthusiasm. But on the end of the scale where you are not allowing the alignment as much, on the far end of it, you feel grief or despair. As you move up the scale, you feel revenge or rage or anger. And as you continue to move up, you begin to feel pessimism, maybe even hopefulness, optimism, belief, and then finally knowing. The thing that we most want you to hear is that when you make the effort to move in the direction of Source, you feel increasingly better. And the most important thing that we want you to hear that we do not think you are quite hearing yet is that once life has caused you to become this, that part of you, which, friends, is far and away the largest part of you, it is the dominant part of you, it is a Source energy part of you, that part of you who has become more because of your exposure to contrast is now calling you toward allowing yourself to fully recognize what you have defined through your contrasting experience that you prefer. Source is calling you. And when you answer the call of Source, you have improvement in the way you feel. When you hear Source saying, come this way, we want you to understand that it is you using your guidance system and moving in the direction of becoming who you really are. We also want you to understand that very often when you are in a fit of anger, you are not doing something wrong. You're on your way to who you are. In other words, do you understand that if you're in despair, Source is calling you toward your bliss, toward your joy. But if you're in despair, you can't hear the blissful call. So do you know what call you're hearing? The angry call. But it's still Source. It's still Source saying anger is a step in the right direction toward the frustration, which is an even stronger step in the right direction, to hoping, which is an even stronger step in the right direction, to believing, which is an even stronger step in the right direction, to knowing, which is there, you see. We see you. You are teachers to the very core of your being. Room full of teachers, of teachers, of teachers, of teachers. That's what this family of Abraham is really all about. And we see you, even though most of you who come to these gatherings, the low end of your scale averages around overwhelmment and frustration. And the high end of your scale is up there in bliss and joy and appreciation. And you don't move much below that very often. You can, but you don't stay there long. And so, for most of you, it's very easy for you to dive into one of the processes that we or someone has offered that helps you to move easily up the emotional scale as you leave resistance behind. But you are teachers sometimes of people who are nowhere near frustration. They'd give anything to have a life like that. They are in deep despair. They're in fear. They're in trauma. They truly feel as if they are victims. And so, we're wanting to give you some insight into how to coach some of these people up the emotional scale. And the most important thing that we want to say to anyone who is in a place other than where they want to be is, you've got to let your first intention be to make peace with where you are. Because if you are standing in a place of despair or anger or not enough money or any situation that is not pleasing you, and you are beating up on yourself for not doing better, you are clearly focused in the opposite direction, because when you beat up on yourself, your disrespect for yourself is the most pressing, dominant, and destructive, out of alignment thing that you could do, because your Source, who is within you, adores you. And when you do not adore you, you are out of whack. That Source that is within you knows your value, and when you do not, you're out of whack. That Source that is within you is so confident of the perfection of your beingness that when you ask, it is given. Source does not say, well, now let's think this over. You might not be asking for the right thing. Source knows that nobody could ask better than you. We all are wired for cooperative independence. And by that we mean you are so free you can choose bondage. But you are the creator of your own reality. Nobody else is. And it is a personal, very individual, very individual determination to make your deliberate trek up this emotional scale that will bring you into the power that you were born with and into the power that is natural to you.